All right, this is a BC-348-R. Now, this video is not going to be like the other people's video. I'm not going to show you me operating this, all right, picking up a ham in sideband and, clicking around, turning the volume control up and down. This video is for someone that's thinking about buying one of these and recapping it and making a power supply. All right. Now, obviously, you've seen it outside. We'll show you. Mine is of museum quality, the front. Let's get it in the frame a little bit better. As you can see, it is a radio that is gaudy looking. It's ugly looking, but it was made to function on an aircraft like a B-17. It wasn't made to be in a magazine for you to oogle over. Now, this radio has surplus. Went for like $59. And if you're lucky today, in today's money, you can get one in great shape for $300. Now, I got this from a guy. He basically sold to me for $300. And after he sold it to me, he told me, I'm sending you a different unit because the Dyna motor has a dent in it. I didn't even expect a Dyna motor. So I'm like, this guy's pulling a quick one. No, he did not pull a quick one. This baby is in great shape. The U.S. Post Office broke off the ground lug, which I was able to salvage. It all looks good, museum quality. I want to show you some of the stuff inside real quick and tell you what it is. I'm doing this video over because I called this an IF section, and it's RF section. All right, this radio has 3 RF amps, and here's the tubes for them. 3 RF amps on the front end. And you say, wow, that must make the radio really sensitive. No, that's not what it's for. 3 RF amps. This last one here is a mixer. All right, and here's the oscillator over here in its own little box. And you want to see the tube or change the tube, you have to open this up. This thing is built like a tank. So for 3 RF amps and an oscillator. The reason is they don't want this oscillator, or didn't want this oscillator, to get out on the antenna so the Germans or the enemy could tell that the aircrafts were coming. Because remember, radio silence is only for the transmitter. It's not for the receiver. It's a different concept. Hope you got it. All right, now let's look inside down here. Look at this coupling here. Look at this, that's the coupling to change the bands. Okay, funny, huh? And there's a rod that goes through all 4 of these, and there's a wafer switch in each one of these. This radio is an absolute nightmare to fix if you get one. All right, I'm just warning you that. This thing here, I didn't even clean the dust off it. I recapped it. I built a power supply for the Dyna motor. Now, if you have a Dyna motor, let's see my power supply. Okay, this is the size of the power supply, 24 volts to 28 volts. That's going to power this radio. All right, that's if you got a Dyna motor. If you don't have a Dyna motor, power supply is going to look something like this. Okay, and this one here has a 12 volt filament. So you got to rewire the radio so the filaments are 12 volt, not 24. This is original. Hasn't been touched except for recapping. All right, so here's your IF can, your BFO, your IF cans. Okay, this isn't your typical radio. Now, let me really shock you. All right, let's flip this thing over. Now, let's take a gander at this. What does that look like? It looks like the inside of an elevator. And like inside of an elevator control panel. Elevator won't go to a certain floor. It's going to be a relay. But basically, someone has gone over the years and cut the lacing. There's lacing cord in here, and the wires will all be pulled out, so it'll be even more of a nightmare. But what you're looking at here is an assembly that's built on a board out of the radio. The girl builds the assembly She drops it in here and goes to the next girl, and she wires these wires up to these controls. Okay? That's why you see this wiring harness. This is done with a waxing cord. I did that in my day, okay? It ain't pretty, but I did it. Now, here's a Jones plug, and this is where your plus and your minus goes into the back of the radio. And this radio goes into a shock-mounted, it's a fixture. Let's call it a fixture. So you can plug one of these radios in and out in a matter of seconds, all right? And change the radio out of the aircraft if it's bad. And you also, don't forget, if you ever work on these radios, there has to be a jumper here on this Jones plug, and this turns the front end on and off of the radio. So if you don't have this jumper in, half this radio won't be on. It took me a while to figure it out, all right? And then I did a video, and somebody went after me. Oh, you should have known it needed. I looked after I figured out half my front end was off, and I got back to here, that maybe I should go look. And I found it was very hard to find. But that was something I had to learn the hard way, because nobody anywhere in their videos mentioned that if you get one of these radios that's supposed to work and it don't work for you, you have to add a jumper on the back, because this goes over to the transmitter. So when you transmit, it shuts the front end off of the radio. See, some people that have one of these working, that someone has set it up for them, they know all about this jumper, you know, and then they act like hot shit, okay? But this radio has all kinds of things that you'll never have seen before. Here's a split gear. I've showed you these before. There's a worm gear over here. It's half mechanical and half electronic. And you're going to be, if you buy one of these, they can go anywhere from $200 as a parts unit all the way up to $1,500. And there is one on eBay where the guy put a brass plaque on there with his name on it, modified by so-and-so. And that's up for sale for real big money. And the guy put a piece of tape over the guy's ham calls. Yeah, that's what you want on the front of your radio. Some guy that bodged the radio from using some modifications from a magazine. But anyway, when you turn this knob here, it's got a flex shaft that goes down and turns a screw down here. It's got stuff on this radio you've never seen before. Now, I got another one coming, so I can screw around with it. After I found out this was museum quality, and I recapped it, I decided that was it. I got it working, leave it alone, okay? With one coming, I might play around with it. We'll see. But in other words, here's the caps I recapped. They were down behind here. And what I did was I cut the lead up on the top. I moved them up and down with the pliers until the wire broke from the body of the capacitor. And then I got a pick and pulled the wire out from behind here. And then was able to unsolder the lead, put the new caps on the inside here. Got to remember, I told you, this is built as an assembly out on a piece of wood. So for you to come along and start trying to recap it, that's not how it was made. It was made, this assembly was made outside the radio and then dropped in there. So you're working on stuff like that. But this radio is very light because it's mostly aluminum. There are some steel parts. Here's a knob from one. I bought one from a guy on eBay, and he mentioned in the description that a mouse might have gotten inside the radio. Well, the mouse was still dead inside the radio with the nest, right in this section here. I could not get the radio apart. I couldn't get the thing. So I cut with my nibbling a hole. I peeled it back, saw the dead mouse, saw the nest, saw that the mouse chewed all the wires, emailed the guy. Guy gave me back my money for the radio, but not for the shipping, which he made money on. Okay? And then he was saying, well, you know, I did mention in the description. Yeah, he did it in such a way you said you thought. And I could tell by this back Jones plug and that, where the mouse got in, that he had gone in there with pliers and got the nest away from the hole, thinking maybe the person will buy it and never open it up. But these radios are totally different than anything you've ever dealt with. Okay, I wanted to show you that. I'm not going to show you a video of me sitting next to it, stroking it. Oh, what a great radio! Because that's what a lot of videos do. They don't tell you the aggravation of like, there's a wafer switch over here. If that switch bad, you're going to have to buy another radio just to get that switch. All right, and I think it's like 3 layers. And in each one of these RF amp boxes, I hope I didn't say IF, RF amp. I had to do this video over because I called these IFs, but they're RF amplifiers. But each one of them there's a rod through them and the oscillator. When you change bands, the band coils are in here. And it's a nightmare, okay? An absolute freaking nightmare. But I wish I could send myself a message through time to tell myself to go find one of these. Save up the money and buy one and get it working, because it is a really cool radio. And before doing that, get one of the command radios, the simpler ones, the ones that are similar to an AA5 radio. And the supply is much easier to build for that. I think that's it. All right, that's it.